All right, you are now tuned in to the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmy Lee Velez. I'm here with Manny.
Hello.
And Gabe. You had that perfect little hello there.
Hello.
All right, managing moving parts. In this episode, the crew talks about their experiences with organizing and controlling a busy life. We cover topics that range from overall life balance, organization, planning, delegation, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from John C. Maxwell and Albert Einstein. All right, if you are new, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to download and subscribe. We drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. As usual, we like to kick things off with a definition from dictionary.com, and I wanted to define the word manage. To bring about or succeed in accomplishing, sometimes despite difficulty or hardship. All right, so that makes pretty, that's pretty straightforward, right? So managing moving parts. I grabbed an article titled "Crazy Busy: 10 Key Principles to Managing a Modern Life" from care.com. I'm going to read off the 10, and then we can in detail kind of discuss each one. So number 1, do what matters most. Number 2, create a positive environment. Number 3, find your rhythm. Number 4, invest your time wisely. Number 5, waste time screen sucking. Number 6, identify and control Gemmel's merch. Number 7, delegate. Number 8, slow down. Number 9, avoid frazzling. And number 10, play. Let's break this down because it had some interesting points. All right. So they say do what matters most. The most common casualties of an excessively busy life are things that matter most to you. The things you want to give more attention to. Don't spread yourself too thin. You must choose. You must prioritize. In order to do both well and be happy, you must say no thank you to many projects, people, and ideas. Cultivate your lives, cultivate your lilies, and rid of your leeches. That was in quotes. So what do you guys think about that? Do what matters most. I guess that goes back to prioritizing, yeah. I mean, that's definitely an important thing. A lot of times, I mean, I think we talked about this on our last podcast about just being busy.
Yeah.
And for the sake of being busy, not being productive, kind of separating the two. So you can be very busy, doesn't mean you're productive.
Sure. No,
so I can run in place, but I'm not getting anywhere.
Yeah. No,
or I can physically run and keep going a distance and actually going somewhere.
I think the most important part for that, do what matters most, is when are you figuring out doing what matters most? I like to do it for work. I try to take the last half hour to set myself up for the next day.
Yeah.
That way you come in and you don't have to worry about, oh my God, what do I have to do first? You kind of have the plan set, and then you can just kind of start rolling. I hate doing it in the morning. I'm already frazzled because if you're thinking about what you got to do, you're already kind of... It's
too late.
Yeah, you're spinning wheels at that point.
I do the same thing. I put a 3 to 5 to-do list, just very basic. As soon as I go in, I knock those out within like the first hour or two of my day, and everything else in my mind is like bonus. Like if I could just knock these out, call this person, set up a meeting with this person, do this task, complete this, submit that, and then you get, I don't know, to me it's just like I build off that. I get more
it sets
energy
the momentum.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I do the same. It's like right before I leave, whatever I basically wanted to get done, I maybe didn't necessarily get it done that day. That's the first thing that's getting done the next day.
So do you do layups though? Like are your first task like layups to kind of build the momentum, or are they your most difficult tasks that you have the most energy early in the morning? Let me get these out now because I know I have the mental capacity and the energy to go ahead and really attack these tasks.
It depends on the list. So sometimes the easier stuff is not necessarily
most important.
Right. So then it kind of drops in and it's kind of like thoughtless work. It's kind of you just have to do it.
Right.
So sometimes I do that first. It just depends on the list.
Right.
So if the list has something like call such and such to set this up, if that's super important, right? But I'm there at 7:30. that office doesn't open till 9. That can't be the first thing I do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even though it's high on my priority list. Or I get there at 8, it doesn't matter. Like, I can't do that. So then you kind of, that's when you got to like work around. That's when I will do the little super easy stuff just to kind of, but I know within my first 2 hours, X, Y, and Z. So by 9:30, that will get done because that hits the mark of this office opening. Right. So it's between my first 2 hours. If I get that list of 3 to 5 things, whatever, I never make a list of 10. I never, because now I'm overwhelmed. As soon as I get there, now it's like,
Yeah.
Right. Maybe too many things.
Because, and they'll talk about it here, or maybe not. They talk. I was reading up on another article when it comes to time management, and they're talking about giving yourself cushion as well. So when you give yourself, when we talked about this, like organizing our days in a couple podcasts ago, a couple episodes ago, whatever, and we're talking about like at 7 o'clock I'm doing this, at 7:10 I'm doing this, at 7:15 I'm doing this, and we jokingly. We've all been there. We've all tried that. We've all done that, and that doesn't work because that's not real life.
Yeah.
So you have to give yourself that cushion. Your day gets interrupted on things that you don't necessarily have control of.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a reality. Has nothing to do with your role, your job. That has nothing to do with your life. I mean, your home life or whatever. That's just how life operates. You get a bunch of little interruptions, or maybe it's a larger interruption. For example, your car breaking down on your way into work.
Yeah.
Are you going to hit that 7:15 now? You know what I mean?
Right.
That 7:15, that little checklist. So it depends on the day. You have yourself. That's why you want to set yourself up, but you also want to be loose in the order, and because all those things I'm putting on there are a priority.
Sure.
So that's why I don't do the list of 10. If I did the list of 10, then I'll just start, I'll get busied up, and that's when you get quote busy and there's no focus there.
Well, not only that, when you don't hit certain tasks, it then kind of chips away at your ego, or you feel like, oh my God, you're not winning at that point. You feel like it's a loss. And now all of a sudden you're beat a little bit. You're beaten down like, oh, I didn't get to that yet.
And if you're behind, for the next day too.
All right. And then you feel like it just kind of spirals out of control if you don't hit them first couple things on your priority list. You don't hit one first.
I agree. Number 2, create a positive environment. When the emotional atmosphere is less than positive, people lose flexibility, the ability to deal with the ambiguity and complexity, trust, enthusiasm, patience, humor, and creativity. Wow. When you feel safe and secure, you feel welcomed and appreciated. You think better, behave better, and are able to help others. That's interesting, the behave better. Wow. It is. I mean, you just think about, like households.
Sure.
Where there's a lot of craziness going on, and the kids act up. They act up for either attention. They act up out of just rebellion. I mean, they're just acting up. Not all of them. I'm just saying, like, you could see why they would.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Whereas if there was a calm or, warm, welcoming, quote unquote, atmosphere, the kid's more likely to behave on in a different manner.
And sometimes like that negative environment breeds frustration because I guess things aren't happening the way it's supposed to, and then it starts lashing out in different ways.
That's interesting. The frustration part. That's tough. That's tough to. That always gets me. I always think of kids. That's tough to think that certain people go through that, especially at that young of an age.
Sure, but I was even thinking like work or something like. So if like you're working a group and like you're all supposed to kind of help each other out, but like other people are slacking off and you see that, it's like then you feel like, oh, if they're not doing it, then I don't have to do the same thing. So then like it kind of like goes down the line if everybody's just not picking up the slack, or you feel like one person's doing all the work and vice versa. So like that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It's just it's strange because sometimes a negative, and I don't know if this is negative, but have you ever been in like an environment where it's tense, but it's not necessarily negative? So the pressure's there, but it's definitely not positive. It's positive because it's coming from a good place, but it's not like happy, sunny flowers and, rainbows kind of happy or positive.
It's more of like an accomplishment feeling.
Yeah, like think of like a drill sergeant.
Yeah.
So that might be negative to someone, but at the same time, it's productive and positive. It's a productively positive thing, and I guess that's more of a pressure thing. and not necessarily a negative thing. But if you're getting yelled at, I don't know. It's strange.
Well, that tense feeling sometimes when you're striving towards a goal, that tension in the air it's like everybody's working. There's a kind of a, like you said, I guess a tension that you feel it, but it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's like, man, we're pushing, we're striving for a certain goal. To me, that's a positive environment.
Yeah.
Which is kind of hard to create sometimes, actually.
Yeah, no, that's definitely tough. That's tough to walk into or basically adopt. If you have to adopt an environment that's so negative and it's basically your job to make it positive, that's tough.
Oh.
That's really tough. Yeah, because you're dealing with energies that weren't yours. I mean, now you're coping with them on one level, and then now you're trying to cure them on another.
Yourself,
yeah, exactly.
You're inheriting somebody else's problems, which is never an easy thing.
Right.
For me, creating a positive environment, and for me at work, even at home, is like cleaning. I don't know what it does for me. The structure of it all. The fact that it looks nice or it's a nice, clean, open space. Like if I get frazzled at work, I literally I stop everything. I don't answer the phone. I put all my papers together. I get my desk right. Yeah. And that immediately puts me in like a perfect, mindset to be like, okay, let me attack this one more time.
Yeah, I agree. I get kind of discombobulated if there's so much stuff going on at once. I'm okay with it if it's organized chaos.
Yeah, right.
The chaos I know is going to be there because it's just nutty.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
But like if I can somehow, somewhat organize it, then I'm okay with it in my head. Otherwise, I get frazzled. Mm-hmm. Literally, I'm easily distracted. So if I don't have stuff for my day prioritized or in an orderly, loosely ordered way,
mm-hmm.
I get thrown off like very easy. But that's also me knowing myself. I know I get like that.
Sure.
So the same thing, I do my little to-do list, I straighten out my desk, and then I leave. When I come in the next day, everything's organized.
Right.
And I start my day off fresh. A little to-do list and a little cleanliness, and I'm good.
Right.
I've rushed out of my office before, and I come back to a disaster.
Next morning.
I gotta tell you, my day didn't start out good.
Yeah, I'm pissed. You're pissed.
Yeah, it's just not, you don't.
It's not the positive environment.
Because what's out there is also what's upstairs, right?
Sure.
So when you physically see a mess, this is how literal my mind works. It's literally a mess in my head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if I see it organized and like, okay, I can compartmentalize each thing
mm-hmm.
and address it in that manner, where there's some, like I said, organization to the chaos. But otherwise, if it's all over the place, I literally can't operate. It's like I malfunction, smoke's coming out my neck or something like.
Cannot compute.
Yeah. Number 3, find your rhythm. Get in the zone, follow your flow. Research has proven that this state of mind elevates all that you do to its highest level. When you find your rhythm, you allow your day to be taken care of by the automatic pilot in your brain, so the creative thinking part can attend to what is uniquely qualified to attend to. I mean, that's pretty straightforward, right? Find your rhythm. I mean,
you're kind of working your most efficient, I guess.
Yeah.
I find my rhythm with music, though.
The rhythm's
wow.
gonna get you.
Did you just say that?
Yeah. No, I find my rhythm, like, literally, like, it just goes on. If I'm bobbing, and I wasn't trying to be funny. Not trying to be funny there. Just literally, like, I put some happy music on.
But no, I think we talked about before, too. It's like that that puts you in that zone that kind of like, you kind of block everything else and you just kind of go.
Yeah, it's just background noise, and I just hear din din din, and I'm just
nothing like it. Yep. Napoleon Hill calls that being on the beam, and that's basically what it is. Finding your rhythm. It's almost like your sound. You're in tune with whatever it is, and there's no hindrance to your actions. There's just like a focus, a laser beam focus,
absolutely.
And you're just knocking stuff out. Like it is. You're not thinking about anything. You're not thinking about food. You're not thinking about drinking water or whatever, hydrating yourself. You're not thinking about anything. You're just thinking at the task ahead, this is getting done. I'm getting this done. I don't care. Nothing's stopping me. That is one of the best feelings ever. The problem is some people catch that doing stuff that doesn't get you anywhere.
Sure.
That's the scary part. So you can be on the beam on the wrong things.
Sure.
You can start focusing on the wrong things. You can really want to prove your point in an argument and don't let up. But it's just like, all right, dude, like we got it. Like you made your point, but then people just like literally lose it. You ever hear somebody say they get in a fight and they black out and they don't even know what happened?
Yeah.
They just whoa, whoa, whoa. Mm-hmm. They're so like you just lost control in a weird way where you're so in control you lost it. I don't know how else to explain that, but in the same sense, you're so in the zone, but you lost it in the sense that you're on the beam with the wrong thing. Right? So you're like binging basically on something that's not necessarily productive, but you can be on the beam.
Yeah.
Like it's a strange thing. It's like it's the good and the bad. Like it can be used for your benefit or it can negatively affect you. Well, this kind of goes with that. Number 4 says invest your time wisely. Allocate your time so as to get maximum return. Try not to let time be stolen from you or let yourself fritter it away. Use the time value assessment guide. You'll want to add. That's probably something that they're selling or whatever. But allocate your time to get the maximum return. I just heard today on the Success podcast, it was saying this guy Paul they featured on there. I don't know his last name. They might not even have said his last name. He was saying basically I don't fuss over things that I can make again. So he's like I fuss over things that I cannot recreate. Like this moment. Time. But people fret over money all the time when it's something that you can make back. But you can't make back money. But they won't complain again about, let's just say, spending 4 hours playing a video game. Meanwhile, you could never get that back. But you will complain up and down for 3 months about $400 you lost. $400 you lost. I didn't say 400,000. $400 that you lost. It took a L on something, whatever it was. And you will not let that go. But the 4 hours you just blew on or whatever, you don't see, there's nothing, wrong with that.
Right.
I'm not saying that there is something wrong, but if you're comparing the two, one's a loss of time and one's a loss of money. You're fretting over what you can make back, but you're not fretting over something that you could literally never get back.
Right.
So yeah, invest your time wisely. I mean, that can go on we can go on forever with that. Okay, I guess this kind of piggybacks on top of that. Number 5, don't waste your time screen sucking. This is the modern addiction, the withdrawal of looking at a computer, smartphone, etc. Break the habit of having to be near your computer at all times by changing your environment or structure. Move your screen or your cell phone to a different room. Schedule an amount of time you are allowed to be on the computer or your cell phone, or plan mandatory breaks. Listen, everybody's guilty of that, whether you even like cell phones or not.
And the way everything's
it's too easy.
so intertwined.
Yes.
Everything's easy.
It's like you could go from your computer to your phone in a split second and they're not news it.
And you're still checking email.
Yeah.
Oh, there goes my Gmail.
Social media,
everything's here. But not only that, you can do so much. So
you can even do work at the same time.
Jump from social media to answering an email to doing some work, reading an article, investing my money, doing my banking, and literally playing like a little video game. All on the same device. So it's not necessarily the whole thing is yes, a distraction, but you got to be smart with. Now we got to be smart with our smartphones.
Sure.
Like, I'm not saying any of those things are bad, but it's what we're going to talk about later on is the balance of it all. And that's really what life is. It's really finding the balance in it all and not doing too much of one thing or too little of another, without, I guess, like that perfect balance, which is one of the trickiest things we will ever do as human beings, because it's not that it's impossible, but it's checks and balances game that you have to be on every single day, or it can easily get it'll be lopsided within under 24 hours, obviously.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I hate screen sucking. I really do. I hate that whole thing. And it's not as a partner, as like, a marital partner. Like, it is annoying as hell. I can't. I mean, everywhere you go, what drives me nuts, and everybody's guilty of it, is to taking pictures of everything.
Oh yeah.
Like, I can't. I got a fork and a knife, and I'm like, no, wait, no. What do you mean, wait? Let me take a picture of it as it came out. Like, you serious right now? My kids can't eat, and everything stops. It's like, oh, we gotta take a picture. It's like, oh my God. Every 2 seconds. And I say, please don't take the phone out. Or just don't look at the phone. She's like, I'm not looking at it. I'm taking a picture. And my head wants to explode. I'm like, dude, it's one and the same. It really, they're fantastic devices. But at the same time.
But you have to enjoy that moment forever and never watch it. Look at it ever again.
It has to
And
be
never
immortal.
see it again. Yeah.
It has to be immortal.
It has to be immortal. But to everybody, here's the funny thing. When they were just cameras, right, people took pictures and they were frozen in time, right? Mm. Now, nobody has actual cameras, right? Because most people, unless you're taking professional pictures, they just have a cell phone. How often do you go back and look at it? If it wasn't for me specifically, my family, if it wasn't for Facebook bringing it back, what is the...
Sure.
This happened 5
2
years ago, whatever. If it didn't come back, I wouldn't even know it existed.
But even, kind of going back to old school, like even all the pictures you developed, or all the
How
social
many
cameras.
pictures did you actually finger through and look at?
Funny enough, my mom will bring them down randomly, and you talk about getting lost for hours. I'll be
definitely
an hour and a half, 2 hours talking, laughing. That's a good time. But on the cell phone, I was like, I'll never see that again. I take pictures.
But
all
see,
the time.
I do that with my social media accounts. I can go,
you go back
especially Instagram.
through it.
Yeah.
You go back and just look at it, like, man, what did I tweet out 3 years ago?
Yeah. I find it. I don't know. I just think it's either funny or fascinating.
But saying that too, that's a lot easier than going into your closet and pulling a box of pictures somewhere.
True.
Sure. And it's fast. Unless, again, I still go back on the one's not better than the other. It's just, my thing is too, is like having resistance, having appropriate resistance.
Sure.
One thing is, this is the era we live in. That's just, it is what it is. But having the resistance, I agree when there's no balance in it, where all you are doing is screen sucking kind of thing. Like, yeah, it's like, all right, that is super annoying. It's to the point where you're driving and all you see is glowed up faces. Like, dude, are you actually driving? This dude in front of me was literally watching a movie, like in his car with headphones on, driving.
God.
It's illegal.
Yeah.
I like the people who have the
Clearly not
phone,
paying attention.
like near the steering wheel, almost like it's a heads up display. I was like, no, that is not a heads up display. You're literally putting the phone in front of you and like driving at the same time, but watching whatever they're doing. It's like, oh my God, come on, man, can't be that important.
I always said that about when they had like the GPSs that are like on the dash or like in like the center console part of your dashboard. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, when they were on the window, when we had like the suction cup, like,
oh yeah, you kind of mounted it there.
But yeah, the distractions, like you're looking down.
Yeah, sure.
At least when the ones were on the window, you're at least looking straight into the window.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And you could at least catch maybe something on the peripheral.
Yeah.
But there's one on I have a GPS in my truck, and it drives me crazy because I literally, not that I'm looking down, but I'm definitely, my eyes aren't on the road.
Right.
Like and it's like, dude, they made this like that, and my screen's huge, but I'm still somewhat looking down. I mean, even look at the Teslas. Unless you're seated in an angle up in a bucket seat, which is kind of hard anyway because you got to see where you're driving, right? So you got to. So if you're looking up and the screen's there, that makes sense. All right, yeah, because that's the But if you're up and you're looking down to follow something, then look back up to where you're driving. I don't know.
Anyway, it's dangerous.
Yeah. So yeah.
Screen sucking. All right.
Screen sucking. Number 6, identify and control Gemmel's merch.
Well, let's start with the definition of Gemmel's merch.
Okay. Gemmel's merch is the force that distracts a person from what he or she wants to or ought to be doing. Basically, procrastination. It is, they call it the force. I like that. It is as pervasive and powerful as gravity. Assess your surroundings to identify the sources of Gemmel's merch in your environment. Then make a conscious effort to control and overcome distractions. It literally sounds like a villain. But Yeah,
Procrastination.
things that are slowing you down, that are distractions. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Delegate what you don't like to do or are not good at, if you possibly can. Your goal should not be to be independent, but rather effectively interdependent. You do for me, and I do for you. That is what makes life possible. Yeah, especially for, obviously we're managing moving parts here, so delegation is a huge thing. I don't know, delegation as well as sharing. I mean, delegation's more of like handing off someone, a task and have them doing it.
Sure.
Sharing is also an important thing, whereas we're both doing it, except we're kind of splitting what is being done.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess that it is kind of one and the same. But anyway, if you think about it as sharing, you and your spouse are sharing the role of being a parent together, regardless of the situation, and maybe you split, things.
Split the duties, yeah.
Yeah, split the duties on who's doing what for this week, and then maybe next week you alternate, whatever. Instead of trying to do everything yourself. Because there are people out there that literally try to do everything yourself. Parenting quickly becomes, that's my partner.
Yeah.
Because, dude, it is tough, man. And then that's, then you have, the single parents who, do what they're doing. And, you just got to give them props because, dude, it's not easy.
Mm-hmm. Well, even then,
crazy.
even when you're sharing and you feel like you're doing more than the other, you become resentful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we better be sharing equally, because if not, I'm going to be annoyed.
You got to create a positive environment.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, number 8, slow down. Stop and think. Ask yourself, what's the hurry? Why wake up already impatient, rush around, and try to squeeze in more things than you should, thereby leading you to do all of it less well? Your hurry is your enemy. Yes and no. So I do believe that kind of how we were talking earlier about being at dinner, taking it all in,
Sure.
and actually appreciating your family and enjoying the moment. But there are things you have to hurry for.
Sure.
There's also like the lackadaisical approach to life, and then there's a hustler's mentality. So am I hurrying around? Am I, what's the hurry? Accomplishment, getting things done, moving along, so then you can do other things that you want to do. It just depends.
But, I mean,
some things you got to chill out with.
But even some with that, that's being like efficient with that. But
Right.
But sometimes if you're rushing around, you're being impatient, like it says in there.
That's true.
Then you might cause more mistakes and make more of a detriment to
Yes.
what you're trying to do. So,
I got you.
like you said, there's a positive and negative to that too.
Right.
If you do it properly, yes. But if you're rushing around just trying to frantically get it done, then that causes more problems in the long run.
Sloppy.
Yes.
Everything nowadays is so instant. Like, it's hard to slow down.
Isn't it Instagram?
Yeah, it is Instagram. Everything, instant food, instant everything. Everything's fast. So
Yeah.
it's hard to slow down.
It's a microwave society, man. Avoid frazzling. In other words, don't multitask ineffectively. Give one task your full attention and you will do it better. You may eventually get so good at it that your conscious mind can attend to other aspects of the task other than menial ones. This is the only way a human can multitask effectively.
Can't avoid frazzling. It's kind of part of the day.
Yeah.
Isn't that we got to learn to manage? That's the
But
whole
it's
thing.
all,
Of
yeah, and
managing.
then of 7's like delegate. So
Yeah.
it's like, are you multitasking because you want to, or do you have to? Are there things in your tasking responsibilities that can be delegated?
Sure.
Right. But that also ties in with slow down.
Sure.
Okay. Gotcha.
Sometimes you there's an unfortunate like frazzling when you're just learning your footing of like if you're doing something new that you're not familiar with. Once you get familiar with it, then you can kind of start delegating and working more efficiently.
True. Play is number 10. Imaginatively engage in what you are doing. This will bring out the best part of your mind, focus you on your task, and make you more effective and efficient.
But does that essentially mean like have fun with it?
Basically, yeah. Exactly.
Enjoy what you're doing, regardless. Try to find joy in it. Make it
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's hard, especially I would call it more at work, because home you can kind of do whatever. You could do whatever to make it fun, but work, in a structured environment where you have to be somewhat professional.
Sure.
Making it fun. Some people take it as like, oh, he's a jokester. It's like,
Yeah.
No.
Then you get too relaxed.
Right, and then it's too relaxed, and then somebody says offensive, and like, here we go.
Yeah.
Also, kind of rolls into like love what you do.
Sure.
Because if you could lose yourself in that, I forget what this referee's name, but there's a famous like boxing ref that's like, he almost looks like, it's hilarious. He's so into it that it looks like he's rooting for one of the boxers. Like, I mean, it's either that or it looks like he's instigating the fight. It's hilarious. He literally looks like he loves every second of what he does. And the meme was like, get you a job where you're as excited as, I forget what this guy's name is, this referee's name is. Steve Willis. It said, love your job the way Steve Willis loves reffing boxing matches. So, all right, so there you have it. Thank you, care.com. The crazy busy article, 10 key principles to managing modern life. All right, so let's jump into ourselves and our lives. So how do you view your schedule? We kind of talked about this, and as well as embracing balance.
You learn it as you kind of go. You kind of find that balance, and you got to learn to let some stuff go, right. Especially with children. With kids and activities, you get less time for yourself, and you got to kind of be okay with that because it's no longer about you as far as being a parent's concerned.
It's true.
That's what I've found.
I just fly by the seat of my pants.
Really? That sounds fun.
Well, yeah, I wish I could literally actually do that. But no, I've been terrible. Like, I've always been I know
you're completely serious.
Yeah.
So I said it sounds fun.
Yeah.
No, but it's like I'm kind of like I know like the stuff I need to do, but I don't really like plan it out. Like I need to do this and this, but like for the most part, it's like it happens when it happens during the day.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm not good with that part, and I know I'm not good with that. So it's like
right.
I know that's something I have to work on. So
right. All right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair enough. I mean, that's straightforward, right? All right. But how do you embrace balance?
You got to find it first.
Notice it.
Yeah.
I mean,
sometimes
first step is
you don't know you're imbalanced.
Yeah,
I mean, I think a lot of times if we knew that we were so off, we would at least try to make some level of course correction. But sometimes you don't even know you're that off until somebody says something to you. You realize something. You're like, oh my gosh, was I that like far off from like what reality or balance should be? You know what I mean? Have you ever been overwhelmed and stressed?
No. Sure. Oh.
Well, who hasn't? I'm like, that's kind of like,
yeah.
But there's extremes of it, is what it is. Like, so you kind of like.
I mean, but you do learn the most about yourself during those times, I guess. You know what, kind of, you figure out what your balance is from those experiences.
Kind of what you can handle in the midst of all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, what your limits are.
Yeah.
So, I got the question asked one time that said, how do you gauge what's too much? Like, you're doing a lot. How do you gauge, or when are you slowing down? And my answer that came out in my mind way better than, for some reason, I didn't realize, it was not necessarily an actual thought that I had. But when I said it, I'm like, yeah, that's actually it. I didn't realize, I never had put it into words before. But I came back with another question in that, how do I know how far or what my limits are if I don't push myself? Right? So it's like one of those things. It's like, oh, you're doing too much. Go to the same corny old question. Compared to whom? Right? Yeah, it might be too much under a rapid level of circumstances in someone else's life.
Sure.
In my life, it's doable. And then someone else's life, they can do 10 times what I'm doing. Right? But if I look at that person, that dude's a nut. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It depends on the person. It's not that it's a lot. It's not that it's crazy. It just might be crazy to you, but then you might be doing something I think is crazy.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I just think it was just an outlook that I never took on, but then when that person said it, I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was weird.
Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense.
But yeah, obviously we all get overwhelmed. We all get stressed. If you're not getting overwhelmed, I think life in general can overwhelm you by itself, and then I think we can overwhelm ourselves, right? So, it could be overwhelming if, you have all circumstances at home going on, negative circumstances at work going on, negative circumstances physically going wrong. And that's an overwhelming situation. You got a lot going on, dude.
Everything compiling and everything else.
Right. Then the moving parts can go in the, the opposite direction where I'm overwhelmed because I made myself overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
Like I took on too much. Trying to maybe even satisfy too many different people. Saying yes to everything. Never providing the answer of no. Not delegating.
Yeah.
Right? Not, quote, playing and enjoying what I'm doing. That can be overwhelming in that sense. That makes sense? So there's like the natural overwhelming that life's just going to throw us all.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's ones that we're just putting on ourselves for no reason.
Yeah.
Or for whatever reason, I should say. Whether we think it's a good thing. Sometimes we think it's a good thing.
Sometimes you, going to your point earlier, sometimes you think you can handle all that and you realize like that's way too much.
Yeah. Bit off more than you could chew.
Yes.
The old saying.
Exactly.
All right, that makes sense. Have you ever been burnt out?
Mm-hmm. And at home, doing the remodel and getting a new job at the same time. It was like 6 months of coming home, working till 11 at night, at home, but getting up early, starting a new job. It was just too much to take in. A lot of learning, a lot of like trying to figure it out. I was just at my wit's end. Finally, when it was done, it was 2 weeks after the fact where I like started to feel energy and like be happy again. It was like, holy crap. I didn't know it at the time that I was, I knew I was not happy, but I didn't know how miserable I was.
Yeah.
And I was burnt out. And then when it was done, I fell asleep and it was like, oh, thank God.
Fell asleep for 2 weeks. That's crazy.
Because I guess you don't give yourself time to actually recoup in the midst of all that.
Plus, on some level, you don't know what you're getting yourself into, but you don't know the actual reality of it when you're actually doing it. So yeah, you're the one who planned the remodel,
right.
But then in the middle of it, there's other things. This is when this whole topic comes in: managing moving parts, where you have the work situation going on. You have to perform at a certain level. You have to produce a certain amount, and then you have to come home, and then you have like the added stress of their expenses that weren't calculated,
Right.
Sure.
or just added, time frames. Okay, we thought that was going to take 2 weeks to add on X, Y, and Z. Now it's taking 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that stress, and that I just had this conversation with Kel and outside the podcast with Gabe. I was saying there's so many little issues going on that if you were to compartmentalize each one, looking at them individually, it's like that's cake, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you add them all up, it's overwhelming.
Sure.
And if you don't know how to manage that, you're gonna drown, because you can eat. And I could easily see anybody drowning in it, and understandably so.
Mm-hmm.
The tough part is overcoming that and managing it and leaving with your sanity, basically.
Yeah, that's right.
But the good thing is you grow from it. You learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
You learn from that experience. You grew from that experience. There's a lot of stretching that happens when you get burnt out. I got burnt out at college twice, and the third time this past semester, my first semester back at Drexel. I didn't even know what was going on. I basically had a panic attack, but I didn't know that's what it was. I literally thought I was dying. I thought I was having a heart attack. I called heck. But now I know that's exactly what happened to me twice at Temple. And now this one time. But I don't know. I think that's a lot of stuff. That's like taking on a lot, but also not very balanced in many ways.
Sure.
I don't know. Your thoughts, what's strange is it's not, we think about like being unbalanced. We think of physically living, but your thoughts can be like totally out of whack. And that's what the physical outcome then becomes, right? So you stress out about something. My thing about stressing out is stressing out about something that I do have control over.
Sure.
A lot of times people is like, oh, you're stressing out because there's some stuff that you don't have control over. Like, a good grade, I have control over, yes. And I have to get a B. Literally, you have to get a B. Like, if you get a C, you have to take the class over again.
Failing the course.
Yeah, it's basically failing the course. So you literally, it's being up. So yeah, you have to perform at a certain level. So that's not a made up stress that's on my head.
Yeah.
That was given to me. Like that's what you have.
You have a level you have to hit.
Yes. Okay. So how's that made up in my head? Yeah, I'm stressing out. I got to study.
Yeah.
I have a freaking family. I have all this other stuff I have to be doing and then still perform. Again, it's a performance thing. Now, if I put that on myself, like if my goal, like when I was at Temple, for the most part, I put it on myself because I wanted to graduate with a B, right? And okay, that's me setting the tone or setting the level, right? This it's set for you already. So then you just go, okay, so how is this me? How is this
Right.
on me now? You know what I'm saying? Outside of obviously me deciding to enter, but
Sure.
I don't know. It's bizarre. But anyway, yeah. So everyone gets stressed. No, I don't know how often people get stressed out, and there's levels of stress. But then there's stuff that's either made up. There's stuff that's real. There's real life stress.
Yeah.
You can't tell me stress is all made up in your head. That I don't.
No,
believe
yeah.
that.
No, I was just gonna say like there's different ways to be burnt out. Like you can be burnt out where you're physically tired, or you could be burnt out where you just don't care anymore.
True.
There's a point at work where I just like whatever the results are, I don't, and you just kind of let it go, and then obviously it turns back around. But that's when you know you're at your limit. You don't care.
Yeah.
Decisions just being made just for the hell of just making them, not because it's for the benefit of the business or whatever the case is.
Somewhat throwing the tail.
You just kind of just go through the motions.
Whatever happens
Yeah.
at that point.
It is
I
what
was
it
there
is.
a couple of years ago. It's just like, whatever, you can fire me. I'll find a new job.
I talked to a guy who's like, I just don't care.
Yeah.
And he's like, the only reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is because he basically kind of felt stuck. He knew on some level that his employer was overpaying him.
Mm-hmm.
And that if he went and got another job, because the basic thing someone's going to say, someone who knows it all, will get another job. Stop being blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he was smart enough to know.
The outside the value.
Yeah,
is
so
lower.
then people are going to call, he's like, well, everyone's just going to call me stupid for leaving this job because I'm getting paid good money, but I hate it. So I'm just like kind of sticking it out, and that doesn't make me any happier.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then they don't care because it's almost like if they fire me, now I have an excuse not to be here. And people can't blame me and say, oh, you why? And say that I just like walked away from it. And then in the back of my mind, I told him, like, dude, in a sense, you are walking away from it.
Yeah.
Right.
That it's your fault. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to be there, then just don't be there. Then just go find it and then man up to the criticism or whatever you're, quote, worried about. If then that's not the case and you're just doing it for your family because you are making good money, then you're going to have to find a way to like it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of how they're saying, find the way to be imaginative and have a thrill at what you're doing.
Yeah,
sure.
If you're in that predicament, then find a way to like it. That's the only thing I could say, because otherwise it is on you then. And also, that's not fair to the employer.
Somebody might actually want to be there.
Yeah, sure. And could give positive energy to that business. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways. I was in that position one time, and I found the way to like it. And actually, it became, you know what it was? It was that I was ungrateful. And you got to be grateful for what you have. And if you don't like the situation, you also have to be doing something to change it. Whether that's changing in the way you think about your job or changing in looking for another job. Otherwise, dude, you're wasting everybody's time. And to be honest with you, what kind of man are you then?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That you're waiting for someone to fire you so then you can have an excuse so so you won't catch a blame for something?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you didn't know that's what the job was. I got that. I understand that. So then find another one. Oh, but they pay good. Then like it.
Yeah.
You got to pick. Dude.
'Cause-
You can't be complaining all day long about something. Then you're ungrateful. So then you're ungrateful for the actual job. You're ungrateful for the pay. You're ungrateful at some level somewhere. There has to be. You have to, in your mind, make it okay and I guess bearable, even if it's for a temporary time.
Sure.
You know, when people say like stuff like this, this is what drives me crazy. I just think about like people like in concentration camps and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, these people are put in situations that they were forced into, and you hear stories and books where they made the best out of it and overcame certain circumstances and live and are positive people.
Absolutely.
You put your own self in your own jail, and then you're complaining about it.
Yeah.
How's that make sense? That's what I'm saying. Like a lot of stuff, we're so consumed with our own life that we stress ourselves out. But then when you look at the bigger picture and what life really is or means or whatever, you could look at the eyes of your spouse, your parent, your child, and all of a sudden you just find that reasoning again. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's almost like fueling, back up kind of thing. There's a huge component for me it's a gratitude thing. And it's just appreciation. Do you have expectations for yourself?
Of course. Every time you step, let's just say work or whatever you do, you should try to set some sort of expectation. If not, you're just going through the motions and there's no purpose to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's tough with, quote, managing a lot of, many moving parts, is living up to those expectations on every part that's moving.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it becomes tough. And that's when, we talk about it all the time, having the emotional intelligence to not get too excited on one end and not get too low on another end. Right. So it's even almost like at winning. Okay. So you go taking it back to like stock trading. They even tell you like, it's a mental game to an extent where, I can't quote control, stock prices and what they're doing, but I can control my mentality towards it.
Sure.
So how am I thinking about it? Right. So if I have an obnoxiously crazy gain, right? Like a 20 to 50% gain on a stock, right? In 1 month, you're like, what the heck just happened? Like that's unheard of. That's like crazy, right? And then the next month I have like, I just blew an account.
Yeah.
Where's my emotional state?
Sure.
This is why you have to stay kind of level-headed regardless of what happens. And just kind of analyzing, because you're then going to look like the Joker where people approaching, they don't know what they're going to get. But if you're level-headed,
lows are low.
Yeah, and it's just like, dude, I can't be around this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't know what you're going to get. I know a lot of people like that. It's whatever mood they're in, and that's how they're going to treat you. That's how they're going to handle you. Although it's their fault, their situation, they're going to make everybody feel that.
Yeah.
Well, they think. And
that just forces people not to want to be around you.
Just going to attract other miserable people.
Well, or that too.
Does. I just think there's expectancies on each of us for ourselves, for our own reasens.
Sure.
Right? I mean, you have like your general, like your obvious stuff that you do, obvious stuff that, as a person, living in a free country, so to speak. Okay, we might have some level of expectation, but at the same time, each individual has their level of expectation.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? But I expect a lot out of myself just because I know what I'm capable of. I've pushed my quote limits. I know it's there. So when I'm not producing on what I know I'm capable of, that's when you get upset with yourself or whatever. It just depends on your personality. Does that motivate you? Does that get you depressed? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's on you.
Because that can be a sense of stress or overwhelming, is not living up to your expectations.
Right. And then you feeling like if you get too far behind, then you get desperate. You can't catch up. That's when you get
bad
anxiety.
decisions are made there.
Yeah. You're making all these crazy decisions.
That's when frazzling and everything else.
Burning out. Yep. All right. And the last question. If you could change one thing that you're mismanaging or one thing you would like to balance more, what would it be and why?
Well, I guess I kind of alluded to that earlier. It was kind of like actually like consistently doing like actual like planning out, like at least like a next day, like a basic stuff, like kind of like what y'all talked about in the beginning. Just kind of like, how you have your bullet points, but no, being actually consistent. And so like there was times I've done that and tried to do it, but there's like it doesn't. you know, like we always talked before, like making habits and stuff like that. It was like, I'll do it for a short period of time, and then it's like, oh, you get in the mode of it, and then you kind of just stop doing the actual procedure of it, and then you kind of like lose track of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So more the consistency of actually planning out and being more on top of things. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm reading your question or listening to your question, if you could change one thing you're mismanaging, honest answer would be my relationship with my wife. I concentrate so much on work, and then you're so focused on the kids that you take each other for granted. You know, don't realize how much they do, how much they support. And at some points, you know, we become resentful with one another because we don't take the time to enjoy or take notice of, you know, they're doing that for me. Please and thank yous go a long way. And I think for the most part, I mean, it's not a horrible situation, but I've mismanaged, you know, the relationship portion of it.
I think that's a really solid answer. I think we all do to some level. Obviously, there again we go back to like there's extremes, of course. But yeah, I mean, I agree. You get so caught up in the hustle and bustle. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't stop. Mm-hmm. And even when it does stop, everybody wants a reward. So it's like everybody's wants their back scratched, but everybody can't get their back scratched. So the weekend comes and you don't have actual plans. I want to lay around, do nothing, but in her mind, she's deserving of a hour shower by her alone time, and then both of us think the other one's going to watch James. Mm. And it's something that was absolutely nothing. Right. Turned into this huge thing. And it's the people, obviously we're in it together.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I know how hard she works. She knows how hard I work. And us like two knuckleheads are acting like we don't know that. And we're acting like we're more deserving than our spouse or whatever, or vice versa. Like
sometimes it's easier said than done. You got to take an L. Every once in a while, you got to take an L. Yeah. So, okay, you can have that one. You know, you just got to kind of be okay with that. And that kind of makes things easier, just as long as it's being reciprocated, I guess.
Well, I said that has to be the balance of that, too.
I think right? Ego has a lot to do with it, too.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, ego is just... Man, talk about managing many moving parts. Your ego has many moving parts. And if you can kind of somewhat get a grip on that and really humble yourself and just know, I think it still goes down to like the appreciation thing. And I don't even know even if kind of like Manny says, take the L, but you don't even have to see it that way as taking the loss. You can just see it as understanding how the universe operates, and the good karma will come back, and because they'll realize that, like, all right, this dude literally is busting his butt, and he's also still letting me do my thing without complaining. That's different, right? And so now you shifted something and said, okay, I know he's bringing a level down on that ego, because normally this would be an argument, right? So if you switch things up, it doesn't have to be all the time, because sometimes you just genuinely are tired. And I think people can read that, because Kel reads when I'm genuinely tired and won't say anything. Like when we're literally having a conversation and I fall asleep. That is rare, right? But it happens. She's not mad at me. But if I fall asleep just out of just boredom, she knows what the difference is, because she knows, well, it's Sunday. What are you tired from? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You had off yesterday as well. You know what I mean? So there's that's a different kind of thing. And I think they know balance as much as we know balance, in a sense that, almost like being a human. You understand that something's off, and your way of getting back at your spouse is not letting them have that shower for that length of time. I mean, we just do stuff, just dumb. It's just dumb. But it's easy to say out here. So in the middle of a week or the rush of the end of the week, yeah, and so those, again, it's those little things. Those little things that add up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you jump in a car and the whole family's ready to go. Let's just say I've been, home all day, right? And then we jump in a car and we're going somewhere. I knew we were going somewhere all day. And we all jump in a car and we're late. And we get in the car and the car's on empty.
Oh,
I'm telling you, it's the little stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing is, okay, was that forgetful? Was that lazy? Was that both? Was that spiteful? Was that you genuinely forgot? Because you could have literally genuinely forgot. I get that. But sometimes people genuinely forget and then they'll still fight it.
Mm.
No, I didn't know. No, you should have did that. And it just, are you genuinely like in this together to win, or is this another enemy of yours? Because sometimes it's like who's topping off, whose ego or whatever, and who's like one-upping, and it turns into like, this is your partner for life, and this is what you're doing.
It becomes a no-win situation. It's like, what are we doing?
It's ugly.
Yeah.
On top of all that, if you have kids, they're watching. So now you're also setting the tone for their future relationships, and you're teaching them how to teach a woman or treat a woman or how to treat a man. All right, so there you have it, folks. We like to wrap up our episodes with quotes, and the first one is by Albert Einstein. Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. And the last one, John C. Maxwell. Time management is an oxymoron. Time is beyond our control, and the clock keeps ticking regardless of how we lead our lives. Priority management is the answer to maximizing the time we have. All right, so there you have it, folks. Managing moving parts. In this episode, the crew talks about their experiences with organizing and controlling a busy life. We cover topics that range from overall life balance, organization, planning, delegation, and much more. We wrap the episodes up with quotes from John C. Maxwell and Albert Einstein. Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyLeeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyLeeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.